my speech?
No, I'm going to miss it. I'm sorry. I think I've heard it. I think I've heard it before.
A few thousand times.
I do need to talk to you sometime, maybe someday next week.
Great. I'm all set.
I think I've heard it. I think I've heard it before. Sorry about the baseball game.
A few thousand times. I am so
I do need to talk to you.
If I have a season without the Twins, it's going to be, I'm going to be a very unhappy camper. All set.
I think I've heard it. I think I've heard it before. Sorry about the baseball game.
I am so
I do need to talk to you.
If I have a season without the Twins, it's going to be, I'm going to be a very unhappy camper. All set.
I think I've heard it. I think I've heard it before. Sorry about the baseball game.
I am so
I do need to talk to you.
If I have a season without the Twins, it's going to be, I'm going to be a very unhappy camper. All set.
Sorry about the baseball game.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I want to thank everybody for joining us from all of our different spots here. Reminding you again, of course, that we are on Zoom, so we're going to do roll calls for everything. The one item we have on the agenda is to report on the private investment that we've had this year, so this should be a short and crisp meeting, and we will get it started. So, Kayla, could I turn to you to call the roll?
Absolutely. Good morning. Vice Chair Norton.
Present.
Chair Ryback.
Here.
Secretary Wheelock.
Here.
And I would also like to note that there are some DMCC members joining us as well, and welcome them. Member Campbell, Member Carlson, Member Tyne. I think I caught everyone. If I missed anyone, certainly let me know. Good morning.
Thanks not only members for joining, but others as well. It's really helpful for you guys to have the perspective on all of this. So why don't we move for the approval of the agenda? Kayla, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Chair, is there a motion?
I'll move the approval of the agenda.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, the motion has been made and seconded for the agenda to approve the agenda. Vice Chair Norton.
Yes.
Chair Ryback.
Yes.
Secretary Wheelock.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay. Now let's do the approval of minutes for March 26th. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move. Okay, second.
You guys are doing great. Okay, Kayla, call the roll, please.
So moved.
Certainly. Vice Chair Norton.
Yes.
Chair Ryback.
Aye.
Secretary Wheelock.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Great. Okay, so now we move to our main item of discussion, and it's the report prepared by the EDA and Mayo staff. And I'm going to ask Patrick to do this, and as we're turning that over and doing that, I think this is really the core essence of what Destination Medical Center is all about. Can we leverage private investment? And so, Patrick, help us answer that question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the DMCC Board and Executive Committee. I'm happy to provide the following report. And just as a reminder, each year you are obligated to review the information provided by the staff at Mayo Clinic and the staff from the city that documents the amount of private investment in the prior year, which we will then, once you approve this report, we'll submit it to DEED, who will review it and audit it for accuracy. Using that information, it'll trigger the release of state funds. And so sort of this graphic shows the process. We'll be hearing in a moment from Doug Holtan from Mayo Clinic, who leads the facilities department at Mayo Clinic, and we'll be hearing from the City Administrator Allison Zelms with respect to the non-Mayo investment. The punchline is that there was $110 million of private investment by Mayo Clinic in 2021 and $44.7 million of private investment, non-Mayo private investment, for a total of $155 million in 2021. And we'll look at how that compares to prior years in just a moment. But further, the punchline is these private investments, along with all of the private investments in prior years combined, results in $29.2 million that the state GSIA will be provided to the city of Rochester to be used for projects associated with this initiative. So we'll come to all of that, but so there's no suspense. $110 million of Mayo investment, $44 million of non-Mayo private investment, for a total of $155 million. And with that,
Seeb,
yes, please.
Member Wheeler.
I'm just wondering if it's possible when you share the screen, can you make your slide the entire screen? Because you're showing up in the lower right-hand corner, and so I'm missing like the punchline of the state infrastructure investment. So if there's a way to do that, that would be great.
Please sacrifice our pretty faces for the facts. I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Cody will, or somebody will assist with that.
Perfect.
Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Do I need to say it all again?
No.
No, I could hear you just fine. Thank you.
So with that, I would like to invite Doug Holtan from Mayo Clinic. He's head of facilities. He has a real title. I only call him head of facilities at Mayo Clinic, to address and provide a bit of a recap on the Mayo investment of $110 million. So Doug?
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you, Board, for welcoming me this morning to provide the recording of the qualified expenditures for Mayo Clinic, as Patrick mentioned, of $110.6 million for 2021. Right off the bat, I'd like to mention that last year in 2021, Mayo spent $340 million on capital projects and equipment, but we're very conservative on which projects and expenditures we feel meet the letter of the law, the legislation for DMC. Hence the $110.6 million. The slide you had before you just shows just a very small snapshot of some of the projects underway, but we chose these just to highlight that our projects do touch practice, education, and research. From our new research building, the Kellen building, which is just beginning, began in 2021, with the vast majority of the expenditures ahead of us, thus populating 2022 and 23 recordings ahead of time or in the future. Plummer library refreshes on floors 11 through 16. It'll be a multi-year project, but just from an education standpoint, and continuing to maintain that very historic building, of course. And our practice, continued St. Mary's modernization that occurs. We have very public projects like Kellen. We're starting the logistics building and the Proton expansion, Discovery Square ramp, very public new building projects. But every year we do a tremendous amount of work to continue to modernize and renovate our existing property plant to maintain that assets. We're on the cutting edge of being a destination medical center. So we're very positive about what we've done in 2021. Significant expenditures will be taking place in 2022 for projects underway. And one last point, I just would like to really highlight the partnership and the support of Rochester area builders and the Builders Exchange. Those members of those groups provided support for 89% of all permitted Mayo Clinic projects last year. And if you take away those projects that are self-performed by our Mayo staff, our internal staff, they provided support of 99% of the projects. So the skilled tradespeople in Rochester supporting Mayo Clinic, and Mayo Clinic thus supporting them through our projects, really shows that partnership and making them helping to make us a success with our facilities. Patrick, I'll turn it back over to you.
Can I ask one question before we do that? Can you just refresh us on what investments qualify for state partnership and not, you mentioned that it sounded as if there's basically a 3-to-1 Mayo investment to Mayo qualified investment for this area, right?
Correct.
And
I'll
I'll
have
just do that one more time.
Sure, and I'll have Patrick add more to than my definition, but we truly look at those that are required to set us apart as being a destination site. So if we're upgrading equipment, medical equipment, we're renovating a unit to make sure we stay on top from a competitive standpoint, those count. If we're just we do not record replacing an air handler, doing a roof replacement, things like that wouldn't be normally done. These are things that really expenditures that set us apart as a destination center and to grow our facilities.
Okay, Patrick?
Yeah, I have nothing more to add to that.
Sorry, Member Wheelock, I see has a question.
Thank you, Doug. I'm wondering, I know we're just a wee bit into 2022, but I'm wondering if you can give us maybe a little sense of the planned activities and investments for this year and something that we can kind of ballpark, or maybe for the next few years. Can you make any additional comments about planned investments that are public enough or certain enough to be able to comment on?
Well, like I say, we are starting our logistics building to support, to make way for the Proton expansion. That's one that's very public. We continue to look at our campus and how we can continue to grow and meet our needs. So we are updating our campus master plan, but nothing that we can share publicly at this time. But that's a continual thing that we do to continue to make sure that we are meeting the needs of the changing patient population. But I should just say, for those projects in flight, many of them are just starting. So for example, Kellen, in 2021, we recorded only $7.7 million of expenditure in 21. For a significant building project, you'll see a great deal going out unpaid this coming year and into next. Same thing with our Discovery Square ramp. We've only expended about 15% of that total project budget in 21. So we'll see a good, healthy contribution next year, or this next year's reporting of 2022.
Patrick?
And I think that brings up an important point, which is in this methodology, we only record projects as they're completed and documented. So we don't record the project and except the amount that's actually been spent. So in reference to Kellen and others, much of that spending will take place in the future years. So with that, I'd like to invite Allison Zelms, the city administrator, to just make some comments on the non-Mayo private investments that, again, are part of the documentation for this report.
Thank you, Chair Ryback, Patrick Seeb. Appreciate being invited to meet with you again so quickly. It's been about a year for the last time, and now it's only been about 2 months. So we have seen significant non-Mayo private investment in 2021, and as was noted before, these obviously are much larger projects than the total $44.7 million, but they are such large investments that they happen sometimes over a period of time where those costs get recorded across multiple years. So the brick apartments, we're hoping those will be completed in fall 2022, but they are well underway, and that's about 180 workforce housing. It's mixed, some mixed income housing there. The units there will be really important as we continue to move and have space for employment. That if you look at II Discovery Square, obviously will have significant value long-term, with bringing in new opportunities for folks and jobs and investment within the community. And then the Hyatt House, obviously a great investment, beautiful corner there off Civic Center Drive, 8 stories, 172 rooms. That is actually creating about 38 permanent jobs. And just for perspective, during construction there, about 257 construction jobs. So you can see that that's not just the capital investment here, but we do see continuous economic movement when we have this type of investment coming into the city with the private partnerships that we're able to catalyze with the DMC initiative. Then we have Main Street retail. So I think it's great to point out that we're not just looking at these large new investments, but reinvestment and reinvigoration of the downtown. So you can see here that we've got the old Brick House, Queen City Retail District, and Midwest Bank. So all told, this $44.7 million of investment here shows that we have that investment in significant housing and hospitality and in life science, as well as those smaller, more granular infill developments like those at the bottom. And I hope that we'll continue to see a lot more there with the partnerships that we've seen with the successful application for the Main Street reinvestment grant and so many other opportunities to continue to leverage both private investment and some of those public dollars. So I will, that's what I have for you today, and be happy to answer any questions.
Member Wheeler.
It's really not a question, but just an observation. These have not been the easiest couple of years to do any kind of investment in any community. And between Mayo and the private investment, I just think it's remarkable that in 2021, we had this level of investment in the community, which is going to leverage almost $30 million from other state taxpayers to be invested in this community. I'm not sure what the future will bring, particularly in these uncertain days that we're in right now, but this is something to really pause and recognize and celebrate. So congratulations really to all of you who have done the heavy lifting to make that possible. And again, our continued appreciation about the level of investments from every private investor who's putting down roots or deepening roots in Rochester. It's really something to be celebrated. And I hope that there's a communications plan around that.
Other comments? Patrick, do you have more on this?
Just to bring this home graphically, this chart shows on the bar charts on the bottom, 2021 in blue is the Mayo investment, and in green is the non-Mayo investment. So you can see that we had a dip in 2020 and are showing a 8% increase in 2020 when compared to 2021. Of course, we had strong years in 2018 and 2019. But as you can see from this documentation, 2021 is stronger than any other year but for 2018 and 2019. The line chart shows the total amount of private investment over time. So since we began this initiative, there's been $1.3 billion of new investment in Rochester, in downtown Rochester largely. Because we don't document all of the construction that is taking place throughout Rochester. So $1.3 billion since we started keeping track in 2013. And then, as has been mentioned, the formula is such that this will trigger the release of $29.2 million that will come to the city of Rochester once DEED reviews and audits and certifies these results as we're presenting. We are showing the graphic where it maxes out at 30 million. So eventually, the way the law is written, the total max that the state will provide in any given year is 30 million, and we expect to reach that max in 2022. And then just to bring this to closure, we're showing an 8% increase in private investment in 2021 when compared to 2020. $29.2 million of state infrastructure aid, which is resources that DMC and the city direct together for public infrastructure. And it results in, ultimately, in many community benefits. We've heard reference to new jobs and businesses, more accessible public spaces, the generational improvements to the streets and sewers in the downtown, and increased mobility options, housing, and downtown vibrancy, all of the among the many things that occur as a result of these resources being made available to Rochester in supporting its growth. So with that, I'm happy to respond to any other questions.
Mr. Chair?
Very good. Any questions, members? Let's see, I'm sorry, I can't see who that is.
It's me in the room. This is Kim, sorry.
Oh, Mayor, yes.
Yeah, I just want to say, I mean, I think this is, as Pam Wheelock mentioned, she stated it so well. This is remarkable given where we're at in the world right now with the pandemic, and that we have continued to move forward, and we've seen great investment in this community. And I just want to say, we're talking here, and that's what this meeting is about, is DMC, but I just want to make a broader statement about this is just what's happened in that 2 square mile or roughly 2 square mile area. Rochester has seen significant other growth and business advancement during the pandemic in other parts of the community too. So I would say, just overall, Rochester is faring very well. And maybe that's just the mayor and me wanting to make it clear that while DMC is doing great, the city as a whole is doing quite well too, given where we're at in the world. So just wanted to add that.
Sounds great. Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering if it'd be appropriate to, there are other DMCC board members who are not necessarily to vote on this, but.
I have to leave.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm going to have to step out. So we've got about 5 more minutes, and then I'm going to have to, if you need my vote, I'll have to ask for a call. So maybe.
I think we do need your vote. So Member Wheelock, and then.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
That'd be great.
Mr. Chair, why don't I actually just make a motion for approval of the resolution that is provided to submit the report to deed, and then perhaps we can continue discussion after we vote on the motion.
Good strategy, posed by a veteran who knows these things, very wise. Do we have a second for that?
Yeah, I second that.
All those in favor of the resolution to forward this to the state? Kayla's going to call the roll.
Perfect. Sounds great. Vice Chair Norton,
Aye.
Chair Rybeck,
Aye.
Secretary Wheelock.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Great. Any final discussion? Member Wheelock, I think you had something, and then anyone else?
I didn't, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering if maybe Patrick or someone, whoever is the most appropriate, could remind us about the local match requirement. This is about private investment that's being generated, but there are other public investments that have occurred and are required to occur to match the state contribution. I'm wondering if somebody could just refresh our memory about what has occurred with a local match.
Yeah, happy to respond to that, Pam and Mr. Chair. The city is required to provide $128 million of investment overall total in the project. And they also must keep pace with the state investment. So if the city was not keeping pace with the state investment, the state would taper off or withhold some of their payment. Thus far, the city has been ahead and has front-loaded a significant amount of investment. And so there is nothing holding back the state match at this time. We don't foresee that to be a problem or a challenge, at least in the coming 4 or 5 years. I mean, we would have to revisit it in the future, but right now we're definitely on track, and the city's investment has been outpacing and front-loaded in this process.
Any other final comments?
I would say we have 128 million that we're required to put in, and I think I don't have the exact number with me, but I know we're nearing that 100 million mark.
Around 90, yep.
Yeah, we're over 90. So we still have a little bit more for the city to put in over the course of the next few years.
Member Campbell?
I just have a question about the future. Do you have any ballpark of what 2022, 2023 numbers might look like? Are there any projections of the future?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Member Wheelock, I would just say that we have lots of reasons to be optimistic. Mayo recently released and the city approved their 5-year update, which is their capital plan for their medical campus, and they are documenting plans for continued growth. We know of a lot of high potential projects in the pipeline. We're in active conversations with housing developers, with life science developers, with the University of Minnesota Rochester. So we have a lot of conversations in the pipeline. We are certainly the rapid transit initiative, the more that becomes closer to reality. We know the market typically responds, as it does in other communities, with investment along the corridor. And certainly the infrastructure resources that Rochester is receiving from the federal government is going to be helpful. The Main Street grant that we've received will help us support smaller, more granular projects. That said, I think it's important to acknowledge that we are going to face some headwinds, all communities are, with respect to commodities, pricing, supply chain, interest rate, to the extent that interest rates affect borrowing. And probably the challenge that we are addressing most is around workforce, having a workforce pipeline so that we can continue our growth, both the work that the mayor's been leading around women in construction, BIPOC women in construction in particular, but developing more capacity as well as talent for professional jobs. So I would say lots of reasons to be optimistic, but I want to acknowledge that there are some headwinds that we and other communities will be facing.
Thank
Any
you.
other quick final questions? Going once, going twice. Okay, I just want to also just say how proud I am to be able to pass on a report that shows the state that Destination Medical Center is working. It's leveraging private investment. It's getting that from certainly Mayo, but also across the board. Housing, meaning that will take some of the pressure off others trying to find a place to live here. Small business, which means that those wonderful entrepreneurs are continuing to reinvest back in Rochester. And I think we should be very proud of what's happening. Destination Medical Center is working. So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn? Kayla, we have to call the roll on this one, right?
Yes,
Okay, yeah. So a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, very good.
Thank-
Kayla?
certainly. Vice Chair Norton,
Aye.
Chair Rybeck,
Aye,
Secretary Wheelock.
Aye.
Motion passes.
thank you. Wonderful seeing you. Great news, everybody.
Great work. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.